Put this all into perspective for us is Dalia Dasa-Kay, a senior fellow at UCLA's Burke Center for International Relations. Dalia, great to get your time and perspective on this story. Let me first get your thoughts on the diplomatic efforts underway. Egypt's El-Sisi holding this peace summit, but as we just outlined, neither the US or Iran are partaking in this. So realistically, what can we expect here?
Well, I doubt we're going to see very immediate concrete results, but it's clear the Egyptians and others in the region feel a need to show some kind of diplomatic horizon in the midst of the anger your clip, I think, very well displayed. Yeah. This conflict is touching every corner of the region. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is horrific, despite the welcome news this morning. So I think the goals will be to respond to some of that anger that we see in the region and the protests that are emerging. All of these governments are feeling quite vulnerable. They can't put the Palestinian issue to the side any longer. It has to be in the forefront. And I think the diplomatic efforts are also trying to fill a little bit of a void that the region is feeling, that this issue hasn't been addressed, and the need to contain this conflict to Israel and Gaza and not have it spread further.
Yeah, national security, obviously a concern, humanitarian crisis. But that last point you made, Ali, I think it's really important, because what we have seen are protests right across this region, right, from Egypt to Jordan, Iraq to Yemen. Talk to the anger, Dalia, and the outrage being felt right now, and the fears, critically, that this could escalate into a wider regional conflict here.
Yeah, well, there's really two issues. One is the domestic scenes in many of these countries. We have a region still ruled by authoritarian leaders. There's so much anger, and there's a lot of concern that this anger could translate into pressure again against their own government. These are some of the biggest protests we've seen since the Arab uprisings in 2011. And there is a feeling that these governments, it's not just the Palestinian issue, but have really failed in governance. So that's something I think to keep an eye on. And then the other is that the governments of Egypt and Jordan in particular are worried about this conflict spilling over into their countries in terms of refugees. They do not want to see what they would view as a forced displacement of the Palestinians. This is evoking concerns that date back to 1948. And then finally, I think the concern that this could turn into move into a northern front. There's a lot of escalation on the northern border of Israel and southern Lebanon. Israel has evacuated a major city. We have drone attacks against American bases in the region. There was just a U.S. interception of missiles from the Houthi militia forces in the Red Sea. So while nobody seems to want this to escalate, the U.S., Iran, and certainly not the regional neighborhood, there's a lot of worrying developments over this past week.
Yeah, indeed. The Jordanian foreign minister spoke to our Becky Anderson. I want you to listen to what he had to say. Have a listen to this.
The growing perception on the street as they see this unequivocal ironclad support for Israel in this war. It is a growing perception that this is a Western Arab Muslim war. That's a place we don't want to get to. That's a place that we should all work to prevent getting into, and that's why the guns must go silent, common sense must come back, reason, rationalism must come back, and we figure out a way out of this darkness.
What do you make of those comments, how he's framed it?
Well, I think they're quite understandable. I think the foreign minister is reflecting a view in the region that the U.S. has unequivocally sided with Israel, has not pursued a balanced approach. Of course, the way the Biden administration and others are presenting this is that you need this strong embrace of Israel at this kind of quite traumatic moment, the most catastrophic attack on Israel in its history. And the idea here is that this can help restrain Israel, both in terms of whether and how it would proceed with the ground invasion in Gaza, and hopefully bring about some of the humanitarian relief we saw this morning. But as the suffering continues in Gaza, and we've just had, continued bombings that are putting civilians in harm's way. There was just one at a Palestinian church this morning or yesterday. And so I think as the civilian toll continues to rise, this anger is likely to continue to boil. And this is very, very dangerous for governments in the region, but also for U.S. and Western interests globally. This is a really big concern.
Everyone also keeping a close eye on Iran, of course, supporter of Hamas. An Iranian diplomat, Dalia, here in London, has claimed that Iran does not seek to escalate the war into a wider conflict in the Middle East. But I'm quoting here, it is not in a position to control militant groups such as Hezbollah. What do you make of that?
Well, the Iranians are sending mixed messages. We know very well that Iran does provide military and political support and training to groups like Hamas, and of course, even more lethal militia forces like Hezbollah in the region. But it is also at the same time trying to distance itself, saying, we can't be, responsible for everything that happens. So it is sending these mixed messages. We have reports that there are back channels with the Americans to avoid a direct American and Iranian confrontation. But at the same time, as I mentioned, we have drone attacks on U.S. bases that could put Americans in harm's way. So, even if the intention is not to escalate, kind of unleashing these groups can lead to events on the ground that could force a conflict, even that may not be wanted.
Dalia, really appreciate your perspective on this and analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the fallout